In the quiet suburban sprawl of Cameron Park, California, where families lock their doors at night believing they're safe, where neighbors wave to one another across driveways and the sound of sirens usually means help is on the way, an unthinkable crime shattered the illusion of safety. A respected man, a public servant, a firefighter sworn to protect life. And yet, behind the mask of a hero, a far darker story was burning. Authorities say 47-year-old Darin McFarlin, a veteran Cal Fire captain, killed the very people who trusted him most: his 29-year-old girlfriend, Marissa Divodi-Lessa, and her young son, Josiah, a boy not yet old enough to understand betrayal. Prosecutors allege it was a desperate act to silence them, because Marissa and Josiah were key witnesses in another crime. A crime that could expose McFarlin, tarnish his image, and destroy the life he'd carefully built as both a firefighter and a father figure. The chilling question that still echoes through Cameron Park is simple: how does someone sworn to save lives turn into the very threat he was meant to protect people from? This is the story of a firefighter turned suspect, a man whose uniform symbolized trust, accused of using it as cover for murder. A crime that tears through the thin fabric of family, duty, and honor, and forces us to confront a horrifying truth. Sometimes the monsters we fear the least are the ones we let closest to us. For years, Darin McFarlin was the picture of stability. A firefighter with Cal Fire, one of the largest fire agencies in the United States, he commanded both respect and admiration. To the public, McFarlin was a hero, rushing into wildfires, saving lives, putting himself in danger while others fled. Firefighters in California hold almost mythical status. They are defenders against the state's most relentless threat: flames that consume forests, homes, entire towns. In the eyes of many, McFarlin was one of those defenders, a man you'd call in your darkest hour. But behind closed doors, another life was unfolding, one marked by control, by tension, and by fear. McFarlin had begun dating Marissa Divodi-Lessa, a woman 18 years younger than him. Friends described Marissa as vibrant, caring, and deeply protective of her son, Josiah, a toddler whose laugh could fill a room. To neighbors, they looked like a family trying to make things work: a firefighter, a young mother, and a little boy. But beneath that facade, storm clouds gathered. Marissa had confided to friends and relatives that not everything was as it seemed. She feared Darin. She suspected he was hiding things, dark secrets that went far beyond arguments or jealousy. And she was right. By mid-2023, tensions escalated. Prosecutors later revealed that Marissa and Josiah were witnesses in another crime tied to McFarlin. Their testimony could expose him, unravel his reputation, and threaten his freedom. The details of that underlying crime remain sealed in parts of the investigation. But authorities have been clear: Marissa and Josiah's voices were dangerous for McFarlin. And so, investigators believe he made a choice that reveals the darkest side of human desperation. On August 21st, 2023, Cameron Park awoke to tragedy. In a quiet home where a young mother and her child should have been safe, first responders found horror. Marissa Divodi-Lessa and her son, Josiah, were dead. The community was stunned. How could this happen in a home belonging to a firefighter? A man trusted by the public, celebrated by his peers, and sworn to protect life? But the shock only deepened as investigators unraveled the evidence. Within hours of the discovery, suspicion turned toward McFarlin himself.
Life-saving measures were attempted on both, but the adult was unfortunately deceased, pronounced there at the scene.
Neighbors recalled hearing strange noises the night before. Police pieced together a timeline that pointed directly to Darin. And when the warrant came down, the image of the local hero crumbled. Onlookers watched in disbelief as Captain Darin McFarlin was arrested, handcuffed, and led away, not as a firefighter, but as a murder suspect. For the first time, Cameron Park saw the man behind the uniform. Not the hero on magazine covers or fire department newsletters, but the suspect shackled in chains, accused of killing the people closest to him. Prosecutors wasted no time laying out their theory. McFarlin killed Marissa and Josiah because they stood in the way of his secrets. They allege it was premeditated, calculated, a silencing of witnesses. The charges? 2 counts of murder, and with them, a potential life sentence. McFarlin pleaded not guilty. His defense team claims he is being framed, that the prosecution is weaving a story around circumstantial evidence. They insist the uniform does not define the man, and neither should accusations. But the evidence is chilling, and prosecutors have made clear they intend to show that McFarlin was willing to go to unthinkable lengths to protect himself. The trial was set for September 29th, and the courtroom quickly became a place where grief, betrayal, and the pursuit of justice collided. For Cameron Park, the case cuts deeper than most crimes. This wasn't just another domestic violence tragedy, though it was that too. This was betrayal. A firefighter, someone whose very job is built on trust and service, now accused of taking life instead of saving it. The fire community was shaken. How do you reconcile the image of a man celebrated for heroism with the accusation that he murdered a mother and child in cold blood? How does a uniform that symbolizes protection become a mask for violence? The questions haunted neighbors, co-workers, and the wider Cal Fire family. And for Marissa's relatives and Josiah's tiny life cut short, the betrayal was unbearable. As investigators dug deeper, a troubling picture of McFarlin's private life began to emerge. Former acquaintances described him as controlling, sometimes volatile. Marissa's friends revealed that she had expressed fear in the weeks leading up to her death. She told at least one confidant that she was considering leaving him, and that she worried what he might do if she tried. Control, secrecy, fear, the classic signs of escalating abuse. And prosecutors argue that those patterns culminated in August, when fear of exposure and fear of losing control drove McFarlin to the unthinkable. Behind the headlines, the human cost remains raw. Marissa was only 29, a young mother with her whole life ahead of her. Her son, Josiah, just a child, innocent, unaware, his life stolen before it even began. Their absence is a wound that will never fully heal for those who love them. A family broken, a community left grappling with grief. And at the center of it all, a man who once carried a badge of honor now faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. What makes this case so haunting is the clash of identities. Darin McFarlin, the firefighter, was a symbol of safety. But Darin McFarlin, the man behind closed doors, is accused of being a killer. The fire he fought in public, blazing across California hillsides, was nothing compared to the one burning within him. A fire of desperation, a fire of fear, a fire of rage. And when it consumed him, it consumed the people he should have loved and protected most. As the trial looms, the case continues to raise painful questions. How does someone in a position of trust commit acts of betrayal so deep? How many warning signs were missed? And what does justice look like when a mother and child are gone forever? For now, Darin McFarlin sits behind bars, awaiting trial, awaiting judgment. But for the families of Marissa and Josiah, the judgment has already been rendered. A sentence of grief, a lifetime of absence. The story of Darin McFarlin is not just about one man's alleged crimes. It is about betrayal, about how evil can wear a uniform, about how the people we trust most can sometimes be the ones we should fear. In Cameron Park, the echo of that betrayal will linger long after the trial ends. Because this case reminds us of something chilling. Heroes and monsters are not always who they appear to be. And sometimes, the line between them is as thin as a spark. For more stories like this, subscribe to the channel True Crime Spectrum. Don't miss the next case that reveals the darkest truths hidden in plain sight.